What's up, Chris? It's Friday.
It's Employee Appreciation Day, Jay. It's the Friday of all Fridays. Those around you that work around you, happy Employee Appreciation Day. Today, we're not talking about employees, I don't think, Jay, but we're talking about some really exciting stuff. Last week, why don't hold on. Let's pump the brakes here. This is On the Rocks. Welcome everybody to On the Rocks, the e-commerce hour, the show where we talk about e-commerce and e-commerce adjacent stuff, mostly as it relates to technology, but not only. I'm Chris. He's Jay. We are the hosts of your show today. Last week we talked about the last mile of shipping, and some things that you can do to overcome that. This week, we're talking about the last mile of profits, and what you can do to overcome that. No, what we're talking about are the hidden costs of operating your business, kind of those last minute things, the little things that you don't recognize are draining away all of your profit margin. And so we're going to spend some time today talking about, I think it's five of them, to
Five,
to
maybe
highlight what.
six. Yeah.
Yeah, for some, less than 10, more than three. We're going to talk about a few things that you can look out for in your business that could be draining your profits and keeping you from making it over the last mile of your goals. Um, so we'll talk through those different mistakes and talk through those different issues. Uh, and I guess it's time to jump in. I was about to say, before we get to that, let's
Let's
get to
do
the
it.
news, but we're not getting to the news. There's no news to get to.
Well, I mean, there is news. I mean, those of us, and it kind of ties into our topic today because
Mm.
our number one thing, so kind of a little bit there.
Oh yeah.
But tariffs are up, tariffs are down, tariffs are on, they're off, they're on, they're off, they're on, they're off. That's all in the last 3 hours.
Hmm.
So yeah, fun stuff.
Where do we actually stand with this?
Tariffs have been paused for another 30 days. Paused is a good word. Because
Okay.
they're coming, no matter what. They're coming back April 2nd or 3rd or 1st. We don't know.
Or maybe
Uh,
May.
but just today, they're talking about the reciprocal tariffs that were supposed to go into effect
Uh-huh.
on April 2nd, possibly going into effect as early as today for a 250% tariff on dairy goods to Canada or from
All
Canada
right.
because they already have a tariff on the US of 250%. So it's all over the place. So, that's why I think today's topic is there's so much that is topical in this podcast today. So, yeah, run with it. It's all yours, man.
I'll do my best. Let's get to it. The first thing that can crush your business, the first hidden cost that you may not be thinking about, is not surprising, especially coming from us. This is one that we seem to bring up or talk about every single week, and that Jay is the hidden cost of incorrect cost of sales accounting, or tracking. Right?
Yeah.
We talk about that a lot. We've mentioned it specifically as it relates to tariffs, and how if you're not capturing tariffs in the cost of your goods, then you're maybe missing your margins, and you're not capturing your margins properly. We've talked on several other shows about what happens when you don't do that, and we'll talk a little bit more about it today, because it is a really important thing. Many e-commerce brands don't track the full cost of their products correctly. Those things lead you to think that your margins are better than they are. It impacts your decision making because of that, and it results in making bad financial decisions. And so, some of the things that you can do, is not is forgetting shipping, customs, and tariff charges. So we in the business, we like to refer to those types of things as landed costs. And so those are the costs that it takes to land the product in your warehouse. Jay, do you know, is there a reason? Is there a different reason that it's called landed cost, or is that actually what it is?
I think, and this is just me, throwing, pasta at the wall, see if it sticks. But,
Yeah.
it's the cost for that product to land in the warehouse. So I think
All right,
that's
yeah,
where I think it comes from, but
right.
I could be wrong. But you know what? It's a good guess. We're gonna go with it.
Yeah, that sounds great. And those costs, right? That shipping charge to get the products to your warehouse, the customs and tariffs, the storage fees. Lots of people don't think about the storage fees, or even the even certain processing fees. Like these types of things are costs of doing business, right? And particularly as it comes to inventory, those costs are a core component of that inventory cost. You cannot have that inventory, you can't use it, you can't send it to anybody if you don't pay those charges. And so as a result, if you aren't capturing those in your margin, again, you could make bad decisions. You could make bad pricing decisions because you may be targeting a specific market or margin rate. You could be making different decisions based on um, based on which products you want to push because of the different margins that you're seeing there, where maybe you should have some different kind of allocation. There's a lot of mistakes that you can make around improper margin calculations related to landed and other inventory related costs. Jay, do you have some? I know you've done some of this landed costing for lots of people. Like, do you
Yeah.
have any examples of when this went poorly or
Oh
uh,
yeah, yeah, for
what
sure.
what what?
And so I'll jump into that for a second. I just want to apologize. Chris is having some technical difficulties on his side,
Uh,
so he's not getting the full
uh,
bandwidth. So it looks a little blurry. So I
Sorry.
checked. It's coming in. Not exactly sure why, but hang in there. So yeah, it's funny. It's like you talk to clients and they're like, I'm selling this product, and in some cases they're either using it in a product that they are selling, and you ask them to you
Mm-hmm.
want to look at basically called a bill of materials when you're building a product, and you look at your bill of materials, you make out
Right. Yeah. Sure.
your formulas, so to speak, or your recipes, and you include the cost of that product in there to calculate the cost of the product that you're making. And in this case, the, this product was sugar, and they were not marking up that price from what it was coming in off of the manufacturer's invoice, and it was like 25 cents a pound or something like that. And when you look at the shipping on that order, it should have been like 45 cents a pound. So when you're using that much
Mm.
sugar in a product, that it's double. It's your costs are off a lot, and it has a great impact. And so once we started calculating that, and mind you, they were just using spreadsheets to manage all of this, so they weren't picking up that cost. And so it's really hard to do that if you don't know what the cost to bring that product in was. So it has a
Yeah.
greater impact on you. Now let's just assume you're selling that product, and there's Abby texting me again. Um, let's assume you're selling that product, and you want a 50% margin, and it's 25 cents. So you would set that price at approximately 37 cents. But when you're doing that, you're
Right.
not even covering the freight on it. So you're short.
Yeah. Just the
So
cost.
it would
Yeah.
have to be
Right.
approximately 65, 68 cents a pound. And so if you look at
Right.
that, you are
Yeah.
losing 40 cents a pound on that product based on your margin that you want to have. So you take that
Right.
times the quantity that you're selling,
Yeah.
and that's the impact to your business. And that could be significant.
There is no question. And so that's definitely a thing that you want to watch out for and be aware of. Um, and it is very easily it's a cost that is right there, right? You pay it, but you may not be thinking about all of the ramifications related to that cost, just like Jay described.
Yep. And I just want to
um,
throw out there, and we talked about this last week as well. So, one of the fixes to this
yeah.
is our landed cost calculator, which we have updated
Land
in the
cost
last week.
calculator.
So, if you are interested in that, drop a note in the comments and we'll shoot you over a link so you could actually calculate what your landing cost should be.
Yeah, it's getting prettier and prettier by the day. I'm really excited for the final product there, but it definitely does a lot of things to help you to be able to identify what your landed costs are. So it gives you a prompt of a couple different charges that you may be incurring, and then also helps to give you the impact, which I think is a really valuable thing, right?
For sure.
So you were just talking about that, Jay, about how you may not know how much that's costing you by pricing your products wrong. Well, the landed cost calculator helps you to do it.
That's just
there are several examples of companies that have made these. Yeah, right, exactly. Which is a true killer to your overall incomes and profit margins, right? There's just no question that if you're just giving money away in that way, like it's just there's nothing you're going to be able to do to recover it. There are loads of examples of this. One that we put together, there was a growing direct consumer apparel brand that thought they had 35% margins, but really truly they were only about 18%. And so all they did was raise their prices by $2 a product, change a little bit in the fulfillment process, and they recovered $250,000 within 6 months. So there's no question that this is an area that you want to make sure that you're focused and thoughtful about, because it has so many impacts. Now, the other thing that we want to make sure that we're doing here on this show for you is to give you some ideas of things you can do right now to help. And so how can you fix this? So the first one, regularly update your cost of sales calculations as costs change. So when the tariffs come in at 25% instead of 0, update your cost calculations. Make sure that you're doing this regularly so you're capturing all of those costs. It will not be a surprise, the second solution that we offer, because again, it's very consistent of us. Accounting tools such as Xero and Xero Inventory Plus, or supporting tools like Sin7. You should use those types of tools, because those tools help you to track those landed costs. So you're not doing it in an Excel spreadsheet or something like that you're doing it in your actual system itself. And those tools that we just talked about there, Xero Inventory Plus, Sin7 Core, those can be really effective tools to do that.
And a lot of those tools will actually warn you if you're pricing your product too low as well. So they will
there you go, yeah,
what your margins are when you're setting your price. And even when you're going through the sales orders, it'll prompt it too sometimes.
Yeah, that's great. So that is another thing to think about. And then one other thing that's a little bit, this one's not quite as practical, but it can be a thing that's really important if you can do it. And that's to automate cost updates with supplier integrations. So if your suppliers support something like that, integrate and allow that to automatically update your system as you're going forward. That can be an automation that can really help you in that costing calculation and evaluation. Jay, any other thoughts on landed costs and the hidden costs related to incorrect cost of sales tracking?
The only thing I want to add is, like you just talked about, of having the cost updates from suppliers. In a lot of cases, e-commerce companies will use EDI if they're selling some products wholesale. So if you are using wholesale on the sales, if you're using EDI on your sales side, it might be worth checking into that on the purchasing side, connecting up to your suppliers and getting updated pricing. And then you could also automate your procure to pay processes. Not necessarily going to get your landed costs, because they come in from, there'll be a duties invoice and there'll be a shipping invoice. You have to do that in the system, and ultimately the best way to do that, to make sure you are tracking it properly, is in a IMS, an inventory management system. But you want to make sure that you are tracking it, and you could use my calculator to do that, to properly price your products.
Absolutely. And that brings us, Jay, to our second challenge of the day. And that, Jay, is chargebacks and returns. Chargebacks and returns are the silent revenue killer. Returns, I think, are pretty self-explanatory here, right? Like, you understand why returns are going to hurt your revenue. But chargebacks, I think, are a little bit more interesting, a little bit more of an animal to talk about and talk through. And so, Jay, for those people that don't know, do you want to give like a two second synopsis of what a chargeback is?
Yeah, sure. Chargeback is when you refuse to give a refund to a customer for one reason or another, or the customer just bypasses you and goes right to their credit card company and says, "Hey, I have a problem with this order," and they request them to look into the order. And if your processing company, or actually their processing, because you report it through your company, it goes back to the originator, and then they work with the company to work that out. And if, let's say, you can't come to an understanding and they are deemed to be responsible, they are dinged with a chargeback. And basically, they cannot control it. Their processor will automatically pull those funds back. And basically, that charge is being charged back to the supplier. So, not only does it cost you the original sale, it costs you a processing fee, and it costs you the time of going back and forth with them to get the documentation that they want to make the determination. It could be pretty costly going through that process.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different ways that that can be costly too, right? You ship that product to your customer, and assuming that you're a free shipping company, right? You did that for free. Now they shipped it back to you, and they probably didn't have to pay for it either, which means now you have double shipping costs. Those chargebacks, like they can be pretty expensive. They can be as much as $15 to $25 a transaction. And so, especially if your transactions aren't significant, like this could be a big chunk of your transaction cost. And so that can just result in losses in a lot of different ways. And so, understanding first, like what went wrong in the process to make this happen, can be really important. And then also being aware of all of those costs around returns and the returns process that again you may not think about, right? Like it's one thing to just get your product back, um, and resell it, right? Like that's one thing, but there are other costs associated with this as well. Um, and in fact, there again we have an example here. There was a beauty brand that had lost like $100,000 related to these types of things, right? They saw a 12% return rate, which is a pretty high return rate for a newly launched product. And they found that most of the customers complained about misleading product descriptions. So this became for them a chargeback nightmare because the product wasn't as described. And that those types of things, when you continue to have these types of chargebacks, it can get even worse when merchants start to assign you additional penalties because they're thinking that your product is maybe some sketchiness associated with it, that kind of thing. It could even put your accounts at risk. I know this can happen at Amazon for a wide variety of reasons,
Yep.
and it can happen in lots of different areas. So there's a few things that this company did, right? They improved their product images and descriptions to make sure that they set proper expectations, right? They wanted to clear up some of those issues. They changed their return policy to have a no refund after open policy. So for and especially beauty brands, like this can be a really valuable thing because there's hygienics associated with that, right? You want to make sure. And just by making those small little changes, they reduced their chargebacks by 40% over 3 months. So that can be really powerful. And so we'd recommend again, like we're prone to do. Here's our suggestions related to this particular topic, right? Make sure that you have accurate product descriptions and that you educate your customers properly around your product, right? You want them to know what they're buying. You want them to not want to not want to send it back. Tighten up your fraud prevention issues. Use chargeback dispute tools. There are a couple out there. In fact, before we went live today, Jay showed me a pretty good ad, or at least a nice eye-catching ad because of the nature of it, related to some chargeback dispute tools. So that again, as we often do, use technology, and then the third thing is tighten up and review those return policies. Yeah, Jay.
That app is ChargeFlow HQ. This is not a recommendation. It just showed up. I haven't checked it out yet. but I will be checking that out next week, and I will give you a report. So, if
Yeah,
you can
because of
have
that
an
ad.
app that could fix this,
Yeah.
I don't know what the cost of it is. It could be very well be worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question. Like again, we've talked about how much these types of things can cost. Uh, so being able to manage that in any kind of way can be really useful. And then finally, again, adjust your return policies to minimize losses while also keeping your customers happy. All of those things are really important, and you want to do what you can to make that happen. All right. So chargebacks, that's the second revenue killer. The third thing, Jay, is a thing that happens in personal life all the time. I don't know if you've had this happen to you or if you've done the thing,
Yeah.
but subscription and app bloat, death by a thousand cuts, we would say. There are loads of different things out there that you can pay for, especially when you're an e-commerce brand, and even more so if you're doing your own marketing or like copywriting or even like design at like product design, picture design, like all that kind of stuff.
Most definitely.
And so you can pay for lots of different kinds of software that you're either that you used at one point in time or that one of your team members used for a couple weeks or that you got a free trial of and you forgot about it, but you gave them a credit card number and now you're paying for it and you're not using it or you don't need it anymore. Those types of things add up over time. I know again on the personal side, I don't use it, but there's apps out there that even exist just to do this in your own life to manage subscription bloat for yourself, right? Because those costs can creep up and go unnoticed, and especially when they're $5 and $10, like those aren't huge amounts, but if there's something that you're not actually using or you're not getting any value out of, like it's worth doing that evaluation. Some examples of this, using multiple analytics tools when maybe one is doing 90% of the work, and the others you don't really need, or the example I already described, unused automation tools that were tested but you forgot to turn them off. I know I paid for 1 month of Fubo TV or something, I think, back around Christmas time, because we did the 1 month so we could watch the Hallmark movies, and then I forgot about it and paid for it for one extra month afterwards. And then the last thing where you can find some bloat is maybe paying for a premium app when just a regular free alternative is, again, maybe 90% or 100% is good. There are loads of different situations, and again, there's a whole entire market for personal use around this, right? There could be the example that we have here is a Shopify store that had over 20 app subscriptions that cost them nearly $5,000 a month. Half of those tools had overlapping features, so they were paying for $99 a month email tool and then a $300 a month marketing suite that also included an email tool. And so by reviewing their app portfolio, they eliminated half of that total annual spending. They saved $30,000. They consolidated multiple apps into a single, more cost-effective platform. And then because there were some situations where they had lots of users, they negotiated some bulk discounts with some of those software vendors, which can be really valuable as well. So for this app bloat, there are several things that you can do. One of them, of course, is to conduct a software as a service audit. Like, take a look at those different charges that you see. Maybe do that quarterly so that you can take a look at the different things that you have going on there. Consolidate tools. So review those types of things. Take a look at those tools which may have several functions that you can do all of the things that you need to do from one tool. Maybe that tool is a little bit more expensive, but it's less than the combination of a whole bunch of other tools. And then if you have the cash flow to manage it, right, switch to annual billing on some of your essential tools to save a little money. That's definitely an option as well. One other thing that I'll point out here that it's not on the agenda, but Jay, you can correct me if this isn't right. But if you are partnering with companies like Ramp, Ramp has a feature where they can do some of this evaluation for you, where they can say, is your price for this subscription that you're paying for, is it competitive with your competitors or people that are in the same market space as you? So use tools like that if they exist, because that can be really valuable as well, because you may be getting a raw deal on a certain price, and you may be able to negotiate a better price if you know that that's the thing that's going on.
Yeah,
Jay, do you have any specific thoughts on software and app bloat?
yeah, I mean, if you're using Shopify and like you made the comment, this Shopify store had over 20 apps on it, and it's super easy. You click in apps, you go to the app store, they're there. You click on it, you set it up, you install it, and you think it's $5 a month, but then you look at it and then it's volume based. So you're doing 1,000, 15,000, 1,000, 1,500 orders a day, or maybe 25,000 orders a month. It might change the pricing on those apps. So it's very important you pay attention to that and know what you're actually paying for. And, like you said, you're paying for overlapping apps. Now, there might be a reason for that. And, let's say, the all-in-one app that does the social media and the email is good, but you're paying extra for the additional functionality of this other email app. So look at that. You got to weigh the costs and the benefits of it. And, in some cases, you eliminate that $99 a month. In some cases, you pay for it because it's generating you, $15,000 a month. So if the ROI is there, make that commitment to it.
But that's exactly what you should be evaluating. And like we mentioned, I think doing that on a quarterly basis can be really powerful for you.
Most definitely.
It wouldn't be a technology show without talking about how sometimes unnecessary software or overcomplicated tech stacks can become a problem. And that these can kill profits for a very similar set of reasons as those subscriptions, right? When that tech bloat happens, you keep adding tools when you're not streamlining. Those overcomplicated software stacks start to slow down your operations. They rather than using technology to create efficiency, using too much technology may create inefficiencies, which may end up costing you money. Using one example of this would be like using a separate tool for accounting, inventory, order management, all these different things. Like using a separate tool for all of that different stuff instead of integrating that into an integrated system. There are again, like Jay talked about, there are some reasons why segregating some of those tools may make sense, but that's a thing that you definitely want to evaluate. You want to be really thoughtful about how you've put your tech stack together so that you are making the right choices. Another critical thing that could be a problem, and is definitely an area where you can create inefficiencies, if you're having to manually input data between different apps instead of using an automation or a direct connection of some sort. That can be a really easy way to waste a bunch of time. And then finally, just like the marketing suite that offers you the email campaign option that you're not even using, there are lots of software tools that have extra features, extra bells and whistles that you may not be using. The example that we have here is a brand that saved over $100,000 by doing some of this evaluation. They were a 7-figure home goods brand. They had too much tech stack going on. They were on an old ERP system that was slow and expensive. They had a separate software for inventory, accounting, fulfillment, and they had somebody who had to input information from one to the other, so they weren't integrated very well. This seems like a very simple thing to think about when you're talking about it here, but they switched to an integrated system, right? They integrated some of their fulfillment and inventory management and accounting all together. They automated inventory tracking instead of relying on this manual entry, and they reduced their software costs by 50%, which again saved them $100,000. So there can be a lot of savings in this area if you plan for it properly. So one of the things to do in this kind of space, right, is to map out all your software and look for those redundancies or those holes, right, or where there are tools that can do more of them than once. In invest, again, this is a shocking message coming from us, invest in automation tools that save time and money. Like, this is the most important thing about those automation tools. You want them to actually do something like that. You don't want them to just add cost. You want them to actually save you time and money.
Yeah,
And then do a, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jay.
I was just going to say, if you're adding technology into your business and you haven't actually mapped out your processes, you're doing a disservice, because what you are doing without actually evaluating your process is putting technology in a place where it might be hitting a roadblock, and all it's going to do is get to that roadblock faster. And at that point, you're just creating issues, and that's what you don't want to do. So when you are mapping out your software, map your processes and see if there's a roadblock, see where the slowdown is and what's causing it, and then you can implement the solutions to fix that. Or it's a human problem and you got to fix a human problem. So there's a lot of factors there. Now, also, you know working a lot of companies today are working with older all-in-one ERP systems, and they are not keeping up with today's standards, as well as the dispersed systems that aren't working together either. So there's a lot of good solutions out there. There's an all-in-one solution, let's say like a NetSuite, but you are going to pay a hefty monthly and annual fee for that. Or you can use that accounting and IMS and fulfillment solution, let's say a Zero with Zero Inventory Plus, or as you're growing, Zero with a Sin7 and ShipStation. And all three of those integrate together, and they integrate with Shopify. And basically, by doing so, you're able to gain all of the efficiencies that you need in that. And even to the point of the tracking numbers are going out even before you realize the product's going out the door that day. So it's there for a reason, and you want to evaluate those solutions. And when you are doing that, you need to make sure you have the resources to properly staff your business to operate that system. I've I've a number of times dealt with
Right.
the fact that customers or clients do not have the resources to do that receiving every day and make sure that the product is coming into the warehouse. It's then going into the warehouse in your system, and then you're also doing the purchasing side, recording the bills to make sure all that matches in the accounting system. And and then you have to worry about the landed cost on top of that. So it's all those many moving parts. And if you have the right system, it will make it so much easier for you and help you track all of that information.
Absolutely. And so that all comes down to like a pretty clear point as well. And that's that when it comes to technology, you should regularly assess whether your tools are helping your operations or whether they're hurting your operations by doing a lot of the things that Jay described there. Um, and so that's one other tip around around software management. So as we have talked about, there are lots of different things that can cause problems. What I think is an important thing to do is to highlight, kind of bring all those things back together, but also highlight some things that you can do, an action plan that you can take in order to spot and fix these issues before they become significant problems. And that starts with several of the things that we already talked about today. But all of that can come back to a monthly financial check-in. And so you want to be reviewing your cost of sales. You want to be reviewing your chargebacks. You want to be reviewing your software spending. And you want to do those things before they get out of control. And so that means that you want to be doing this monthly and evaluating whether these things make sense on a regular basis. You want to look at the profit margins that you have before and after those expenses that you're looking at and evaluating. You want to look at the landed cost of your product. You want to evaluate whether everything's being captured, whether you have some some inbound freight that's captured as shipping in a different type of account, right? Where you're not capturing that cost in the way that you should be. Another selfless plug right here, right? You need to work with an e-commerce CFO or accountant, somebody like Jay or myself, or some of this several other e-commerce accountants out there. There's loads of us, but someone like Hyrock, right? Someone who has the experience of looking at these types of things can highlight for you in a monthly financial check-in. Are you aware of this, and this? Someone that can look at those tools that you're using and say, I understand you're using this legacy system, but the legacy system is not doing X, Y, and Z, which are really, really important for you. And if you changed that system, and in conjunction with changing that system, started to do these types of integrations, you would save yourself this kind of time, you'd save yourself this kind of money, and you'd overall improve your operations overall. You need to work with an expert in that area who can give you that kind of advice. Like, obviously, most founders focus on revenue generation, but someone who's an expert in this space, someone who's an e-commerce CFO, they can bring insights that help you to maximize your profit. Like, again, that's what we're talking about here already. And then by doing that monthly financial check-in, and by instituting certain sets of controls along the way, you can reduce spending creep and those unnecessary costs. So that can be really helpful in helping you to make sure that you're keeping your profit for yourself instead of losing it in the last mile. Jay, any extra thoughts around the profit leak action plan?
I thought of one other profit leak, and I'm going to hit that real quick.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah,
this is something you and I talked about, I think it was yesterday possibly, but it's overshipping.
Oh, yeah.
So think about when you're shipping to your customers, and know where your customers are in conjunction to your warehouse and what the normal delivery times are. Because I have seen clients paying for 2-day shipping when the product gets to the location in 1 day on ground, and they're paying almost twice as much as they need to. So if you actually pay attention to that, you can shave off some of that shipping fees and keep more profit in your pocket as well. So I think that's a great place to end there. So.
Well, and that's another area, right? That if you're continuing to monitor your financials monthly, you'll start to see those types of things. And as you and if you're working with an expert, somebody who has that insight to be able to tell you, hey, this is a thing that you should look at, that can be really powerful for you as well.
Yep.
The final note that came from our agenda here is this takeaway. And so, Jay, I'm interested in your thoughts on this. Sales don't mean success. Profit does. Fix these leaks that we've talked about today, and you'll start keeping more of what you earn. What do you think? Is that a good tag finish line there?
I think so. Let's put that in NFL terms.
Right.
The offense, is all show. The defense wins the games. So, if you have no defense,
that's right.
You're just losing it out the back door. Same as the profits. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Very apropos.
Right. Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, Jay, I was excited to talk about this particular episode because I think that these are the types of insights that we like to provide, because these are actionable things that you can do right now, and things that ultimately make business owners and e-commerce sellers more profitable, which has a huge impact. So if you enjoyed listening to us talk today, make sure to subscribe for more insights like these, more tips, tricks, and other points of note that can really help you. And then, of course, we always love to have engagement. So share your biggest profit-killing mistakes. Everybody's gone through them. You don't need to be embarrassed by it. Like we talked about 4 or 5 different examples today. And so we'd love to hear yours. So So drop that in the comments. Maybe even with your success plan afterwards. Is I noticed X and it saved me this much. I'd love to hear about that. We'd love to talk about that on a future episode. Jay, any final thoughts from you today?
I just think that this is one of those things you have to just dive in and get it done, and make a plan to do
Right.
it. Like we talked about doing a SaaS audit quarterly. Just review your financials. Watch some of these costs. If you're not looking at your P&Ls as a percent of revenue, I think that's important to do that so you can see the distribution of the cost of these items and how it impacts your sales and profit.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely. There's no question. Those are important things. And so again, we've given you lots of different actionable things here. That starts with performing a financial review, making sure specifically that you're reviewing your cost of sales, your chargebacks, and your software and subscription spending. And then, of course, work with a partner like HighRock to help you to do that as effectively and efficiently as you can. Thank you all for joining us today. We'll be right back here next week to talk about another topic, I'm sure that will be just as valuable to you on a going forward basis, which we'll make a decision on between now and then. So again, comment below, subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
See everybody.
Jay, before we go though, do you have any? Wait, before we go, do you have any exciting weekend plans, Jay? I didn't even think about it. Is there cool stuff going on?
Actually, Abby's on her way home. She's coming home to go visit with her former dance team that's in a competition this weekend, and she'll be going back Sunday night and coming back on Friday for spring break. So yeah, it's gonna be a quick week next week for her. For me, really, it's a quiet weekend. Take advantage of
that's good.
Quiet and get a few things done this weekend. How about you?
Let's hope so, huh? Hopefully y'all can. Absolutely. All right. Well, we've got a little birthday party this weekend, and then I'm gonna go play some disc golf because the weather's supposed to be nice here. So we'll have to see how I shoot in disc golf. Probably not all that great. It's been a while since I got out there, but we'll see how it goes. So awesome. I'll be looking forward to that. I hope everyone else has some great weekend plans as well. And again, we'll see you right here next week, same time, same place. Conversations around e-commerce and technology. I can't wait to do it. See you next time.
Have a great weekend, everybody.